What's happening, fam? L.A.R movement still moving. Tyrants and terrorists. With all of these, people trying to come to the aid and all of this quote unquote racial tension that all of a sudden, when, people, non-black people get uncomfortable, we have these discussions. When I was listening to a video earlier today by Infinite Wisdom, and yeah, man, he real with that one. Definitely real with that one. So it inspired this topic, tyrants versus terrorists. And the reason I said it is because we have a weird way of being bipolar in this country when it comes to what's tyranny and what's terrorism. Because we can't label the Ku Klux Klan as terrorists, because if we label the Ku Klux Klan as terrorists, it says that black people have been under tyranny ever since its inception. Or we can't label a racist. The country can't label. The country can't label a racist organization as domestic terrorists, because if you do that, you basically admit this country was built on racism and tyranny towards certain people, because because people like myself have been dealing with tyranny and terrorism since basically the founding of America. And that plays into the Second Amendment, because you're supposed to protect yourself against tyranny, but all of a sudden, mainstream America or white America wants to qualify what tyranny and terrorism is, as if, they're just the aficionados and they have to give you the green light to say, oh no, what you're going through is not tyranny or terrorism. It's self-inflicted, and no, it's tyranny and terrorism. It's just when you're tyrannical towards some other people, and when you're terrorist towards other people, they change the name. It's freedom. It's defending our freedom. It's protecting America's freedom. It's peacekeeping. But the people that this stuff is pointed towards don't really ever look at it like that. They don't, people don't say, oh, they're just over here with guns in my face, keeping the peace. They're over here killing people, just keeping the peace and, protecting their freedoms. It doesn't come across that way. The protecting of the Klan and neo-Nazis and racists, when they have these protests, reeks of tyranny. But it's a problem. Plus, if they label these guys a terrorist organization, already knowing that they've been in the judicial, just the executive, the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branch of government since basically the beginning of time, especially the beginning of their it's a known fact that they've been in and are still in those fields, not including business, but I use those branches to say it's governmental. So it would make the government culpable to say they've been tyrannical by aiding and abetting, terrorists, And for some odd reason, that's not treasonous to America when, can't say these guys are terrorists, because some of these nice guys look, you don't want to say white people are terrorists. Like Muslims can be terrorists, gangbangers can be terrorists, Latin or Hispanic drug dealers and manufacturers and distributors can be terrorists. Back in the day with Asians could be terrorists and communists and all that other stuff. You know, even Russians could be terrorists, but you know, but not Americans. Like, I don't think the world looks at it that way. You know, and like the man said in the video, you know, when these NRA members and these Second Amendment gun nuts and say, you know, don't tread on me, and you know, y'all not gonna take my guns, blah blah blah, because we're fighting, we're gonna protect ourselves just in case the government. They're not talking about black people, but they can protect themselves against what they feel is tyrannical injustice from the government, because they look just like the people in the government. And it made me pose a question, you know, that's the weird part of the Second Amendment, because it was basically made in a response to what the Revolutionary War, you know, breaking from Britain and England and the Queen and taxes and all of that stuff. But at the same time, it would make this country kind of look weird, because at some point, if you feel like you're being, if you're under tyranny in America, and that would mean that it's institutionalized tyranny towards you. You're responding to that tyranny, and basic logic could make you a terrorist. Because how dare you say that you've been under tyrannical rule, even though, you know, history can pretty much factually say that's what it's been. You know, Native Americans could say, yo, this is, yeah, the occupation is tyranny. You know, Mexican Americans who lost Mexico to America could say, yeah, that's tyranny. Us blacks, we could say, yeah, from slavery to Jim Crow to, you know, to the civil rights, the war on quote unquote drugs, that's really a war on black families, and basically America's constant war on black, that's tyranny. But all of a sudden, and it made me think, this is why people respond the way they do, because the Black Panthers is a terrorist organization. The Nation of Islam is a terrorist organization. The Black Lives Matter movement is a terrorist organization. But they never question. They can be terrorists, but you can be tyrants. And how, you know, and a tyrant will look at anybody opposing their tyranny as a terrorist. And it's weird. Because to me, there is no getting around it. There's no getting away from that then. You know? It's like double talk, you know. I can be a tyrant to you, and I'm gonna tell you when I'm actually being a tyrant if you can stand up to my tyranny. But if you tell me you standing up because you feel like I'm a tyrant to you, then I will label you as a terrorist. It's like, yeah. But this is really about freedom, justice, and equality. This is a trip, man. It's a trip. You know. And then you got these people, these Second Amendment NRA gun nuts, who, if they felt the government was coming for them, you know, the Clive and Bundy types, oh, we could take up arms. And people are still trying to figure out, like, what exactly did the government do to you again? Okay, you didn't pay your taxes, so now the government is a tyrant, and you're standing and fighting for yourself. Okay, you didn't pay your taxes, and they actually let you walk away from that standoff, and you and your family went to a completely different state and got another standoff and tried to steal property because of tyranny. Okay, but they're not terrorists. You get what I'm saying? Like, this whole scenario just seems very much hypocritical to me. You know, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm out.